See our full lineup of tool storage options at grizzly.com.
Microjig, maker of the gripper. Work safer, work smarter.
I don't know if you guys know this about me or not, but I love making tables. But unfortunately for me, my wife won't let me build any more tables because we don't have a lot of room left in our house to put a table. But when I came up with the idea of making a plant stand, fortunately for me, my wife was all for it. And essentially a plant stand is a table, so it made me happy. But this plant stand is going to have a drop leaf on each side for the top, which I think is going to be pretty cool. It's a first for me. So I'm going to break this build up into two parts, and I hope you guys will stick around for both of them. The first thing I'm going to work on are the legs, and for that I have a slab of 8/4 mahogany. The first thing I'm going to do is straighten one edge at the joiner, and then I'm going to clean up the opposite edge at the table saw. With all four legs roughed out at the table saw, I'm going to let them rest for a little bit, and then at the joiner, I'm going to square two faces to each other. With that freshly flattened face against the fence, I'll square and flatten one adjacent face. Now that I have all the legs dimensioned to thickness, I need to cut them to their final length before tapering them. I'm going to turn my attention to the rails and leave the legs alone for a little bit. And for the rails, I'm going to use a piece of 5/4 mahogany. It's a cutoff from my bed project, and it's the only piece of 5/4 I have left. And I would like to use 4/4 for this, but I don't have any. So I'm just going to use what I have. I don't know what else I would have used this for anyway, so this will work. I'm going to straighten one edge at the joiner, and then I'll rip it to rough width at the table saw. As I mentioned earlier, this lumber is thicker than what I actually need. It's 5/4 and I really only needed 4/4. So now that I have a nice flat face at the joiner, I'm going to resaw off as much as I can so I don't have to work my planer any harder than I have to. And that way I get it to its final thickness a lot easier. Now that I have these boards flattened and planed to their final dimension, I'm going to straighten one edge nice and square to one of the faces, and then I'll rip it to its final width. The two side rails need to be cut at 90 degrees. The front rail and the back rail need to be cut at a slight angle. I completely forgot that the top and bottom of each leg also have to be at that same angle as the rails in the front and back. So I have to recut all of the posts, and I'll just lose a little bit of length. For the joinery for this piece, I'm going to use floating tenons. And to make all of the mortises for the floating tenons, I'm going to use my horizontal mortiser. When making end grain mortises in a rail, always make sure that you keep the same face up when you go to do the mortise on the opposite end of the stock. That way, if your bit isn't exactly in the center of the stock, it'll be off by the same amount on each side. And when you go to glue your piece together, this rail won't be twisted. Using my micro jig tapering jig, I'm going to taper each inside face of each leg. I need to make offset notches in each side rail for the sliding support, which will support each drop leaf. And this is how the two notches will look relative to each other when they're glued into the table. There's a little bit of a space in between the two offset notches to make room for the sliding supports when they go inside the table so that they don't rub into each other. Now I need to make the loose tenon stock, and for that I'm going to use that piece that I resawed off of the 5/4 lumber when I went to make the rails. You see, nothing gets wasted. Nothing. I got the loose tenon stock almost to the thickness that I need at the planer, and I'll take it the rest of the way using my drum sander. And now that I rounded over all of the edges of my loose tenon stock, I'll be able to fit it into my mortises, which have rounded ends. With a 1/4 inch radius round over bit, I'm going to round over all of the edges of the legs and the lower edges of the rails. In order to attach the tabletop to the base of the table, I'm going to use these Z-style tabletop hold-down fasteners. And you guys have seen me use these before. But in order to use these, I need to make a couple notches in 2 of the rails. And to make those notches, I'm going to use my biscuit joiner. And this is probably one of the very few times I actually use my biscuit joiner. So I'm going to stop part 1 here, and next time I should have the top finished along with the sliding supports that will support the drop leaves on each side. And I definitely hope you guys will come back and check that out. And also hope that you guys would consider becoming a Patreon of Garage Woodworks, and you'll find a link for that in the description of this video. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, I hope you'll consider subscribing. Thanks for watching.